Karina Okotel, and this is the weekly wrap-up. It's been an extraordinarily tough week here in Victoria. For the first time in this country's history, we have had a widespread curfew imposed on us. Stage 4 restrictions came into force this week without any consultation or scrutiny by Parliament. Significantly, we don't know the impact on people's mental health, including the long-term impact of lockdown on children's mental health. Of course, there are no studies, as to conduct such research would be unethical. But when you speak to people in the community just over this last week, these restrictions have had a massive negative impact on mental well-being. And what will be the effects at the end of 6 weeks when we hope, but can't be sure, that restrictions may be eased? Confusion about the rules of stage 4 lockdown on top of loss of jobs, loss of income, remote learning is a huge, huge stressor. Employers and employees have had to work out if they fall within the permitted worker category and then have work permits issued. Another process which has caused confusion, but one the Premier called simple. I'm still waiting to hear if I can send my kids to childcare or not, despite the Premier saying that the permit process was all simple. And sadly, the Labor government refused to work with the opposition, instead keeping them in the dark. As my local MP posted, the state Labor government refuses to pass on any information to Liberal MPs. Liberal MPs are given no advice or pre-warning of events, even when announcing the state of disaster. The government refused to send out any information to my electorate office, so my staff and I can assist you when you need it most. I don't want details on policy or even who is to blame for what. I want details on health advice. Who can work and who can't? What obligations does an employer have? Is mental health a reason to visit someone under the care guidelines? The list goes on. The hundreds of emails received so far show people are confused. What we do know is that as a result of these stage 4 restrictions, 250,000 to 400,000 Victorians will be left unemployed or with significantly reduced hours. The federal government estimates a $10 to $12 billion economic loss, with unemployment to hit at least 10% by the end of the year. Now, mandatory face masks only became compulsory in Melbourne on the 23rd of July, in addition to stage 3 restrictions. Was it worth imposing stage 4 restrictions without first observing the effects of masks? On Monday, this is what the Victorian Chief Health Officer said.
We don't see it in the numbers instantaneously. We'll see the effect of universal mask wearing in the numbers in the week ahead and ongoing. We'll see the effect of these restrictions in the following week.
If the matter had first had the benefit of parliamentary scrutiny, we would have a better understanding about why there was a need for stage 4 restrictions when the impact of mask wearing on reducing coronavirus case numbers could not yet be observed. On Thursday, we saw a reduction of cases to the 400s from the 700s, exactly 14 days after the introduction of compulsory mask wearing. But why is Victoria in this position? The inquiry into hotel quarantine heard on Monday that many, if not all, coronavirus cases in Victoria can be linked to the government's hotel quarantine debacle. On Tuesday, Health Minister Jenny Mikakos refused to answer questions posed to her about cuts to funding for contact tracing or hotel quarantine, which saw the hiring of a private security firm with neither a public health or quarantine background, but security guards like nightclub bouncers. Rather than answer any of these questions, quite incredibly, the Health Minister said she would issue a written statement the following day.
Minister, do you accept full responsibility for the failures in the hotel quarantine security program?
As I said, I will be providing the member with a written response to this question in accordance with the standing orders of the House.
Minister, your answers so far have been so disrespectful to the people of Victoria. Please answer the questions. The public health team that critically includes contact tracing had less funding in 2019-20 than in 2016 and 17. Isn't it a fact, Minister, that you have cut public health, including contact tracing, to the bone, leaving Victorians exposed when the COVID-19 pandemic hit?
I thank the member. I will be providing her with a written response to her question.
Minister, will you take responsibility for the total failure of contact tracing since the COVID-19 escape from Victoria's failed hotel quarantine system? You have showed just how you absolutely have mismanaged and your incompetence by your handling of questions today. And will you do the right thing on behalf of all Victorians and just resign?
On Wednesday, the government did provide a response, but these questions would not be answered because there was an inquiry on foot. On Thursday, at his daily briefing, the Victorian Premier said this.
Given that former Justice Coate yesterday said there's no general restriction or prohibition which would prevent a person from commenting publicly on matters which are the subject of the Board of Inquiry, can I ask you, when were you first notified of issues with the hotel quarantine system?
Simon, it's not a question of being legally prohibited. No one's ever asserted that.
Surely you can say the answer to my question. When did you first know, what date did you first know about issues with the hotel quarantine program and the fact the virus got out of there?
Sorry?
And the fact that the virus got out of the hotel quarantine system into the community.
When the Chief Health Officer stood here, as did I, and reported that genomic sequencing data had clearly shown that at least a significant proportion of cases could be traced back to hotel quarantine. That's the answer to your question. Hang on. In terms of challenges with hotel quarantine, there were a number of outbreaks in a number of different hotels, and I would have been made aware through outbreak reports and through other reports along the way. Beyond that, though, the issue of it getting out, as you put it, Simon, that's when that was confirmed, and the first I knew about it was the morning that Brett Sutton and myself confirmed for you that we had that genomic sequencing report, and that B, we were setting up a judicial inquiry to get to the
Release that genomic sequencing report.
The genomic sequencing report is not a document that I hold. It's not a product that I have. I'm happy.
Haven't you? Is it the government?
I've been briefed on it ahead of the press conference hours later, where we made it clear that the results of that genomic sequencing, and we also made it clear that we would establish a judicial inquiry in order to get the answers.
Is now the time then to articulate what's in that report, given what former Justice Coate said yesterday? Now, today's the day, surely.
Well, again, I'm happy to speak with the public health team about what data they have.
While Victorian Labor hid from branch stacking scandals after the first wave, the New South Wales government invested in improving their health system to fortify their state against a second wave and scaled up contact tracing. This is the difference between a competent and an incompetent government.
Contact tracing. It's touted as the most important job to track and contain the virus.
Hello, this is Susan from New South Wales Health.
9 News understands as case numbers lowered in May and early June, Victoria's health department scaled back its tracing efforts. Around the same time, outbreaks in hotel quarantine were identified and the virus was spreading in the community. 9 News has confirmed when cases spiked, there was a reliance on businesses like abattoirs to do their own tracing. Many calls to close contacts weren't made. Under-resourced and with the community transmission then rampant, the tracing system couldn't cope. The Premier denies he scaled it back.
No, that team is a very big team, and it's grown pretty steadily as cases have grown.
Just 57 traces were in use in June. That number has exploded to more than 2,000. Call handlers have been brought in from Qantas, Telstra, Jetstar and Medibank. The federal government had repeatedly made the ADF available for contact tracing. On June 24, Victoria accepted 1,000 personnel, but cut that back to 250 within hours. And unlike New South Wales, they weren't used to make the crucial calls.
We have been standing up additional ongoing resources of our own here in Victoria.
June 9 was the last day Victoria had 0 new cases. New South Wales had the only 2 in the country. Since then, Victoria has erupted, with more than 10,600 cases and 128 deaths. In New South Wales, it's been contained to 695 cases and 2 deaths. 6 public outbreaks have all been linked back to Victoria.
It's pretty incredible that we've managed what we have given what's on our doorstep.
9 News has been told the failures identified in the tracing system are catastrophic, worse than the bungled hotel quarantine program the virus leaked out of.
Despite all of the confusion about what we can and can't do and what our future looks like in Victoria, one thing is for certain. It really should never have come to this. Stage 4 restrictions have been front and centre everyone's mind here in Victoria this week, and my hope is that we will come out the other side a better community. Until next week, don't forget to subscribe to goodsource.news. Check out the website for the latest articles, podcasts and videos. On Saturday, we have Conservative One with George Christensen, who has an incredible interview with the former Catholic Bishop of Hong Kong. And on Sunday, of course, the Bernie Gaynor Show.